Have you ever saw something out of the corner of your eye? Didn't know what it was, but it scared you? Did you ever see like a weird face in the trees? Have you ever been like, I feel something that gives me the creepy crawlies, but I don't know what it is? Are you a person who feels very connected to the spirit world, but you're not exactly sure what to do with that information? Well, today we're going to look into some of these things. And I'm going to give you some resources at the end that might help you discern these things. So, my name's Pastor Kellie Ann, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and she said I kept walking by this area, these bushes, and I kept seeing this face, this creepy, demonic looking, scary face. And I did not know what to do with that information. And my first thought was, did I do something wrong? Did I sin? Did I do something that opened a door to the enemy in my life? And she became very distressed. So when her and I talked about it, I explained to her that actually there's multiple reasons why she could have seen that. Yes, she could have sinned, opened up a door through sin, and saw that. But there are other reasons. And sometimes I think we always take these things as personal. Um, and it really isn't always personal. Sometimes you're just having spiritual discernment. Spiritual discernment is when you're able to actually see something in the spiritual realm, feel it, just get an impression. There's multiple ways to discern. See, sometimes people hear. You can feel it like the chills. Um, and you can also just have this deep knowing of something. So these are different ways that you can receive from the spiritual realm. However, spiritual discernment tells you what to do with the information you've just received. So, yes, it can be personal and it can be a sin and it can be something that's cast out of you if you feel it internally. You see this in the book of Acts in chapter 13, where the Apostle Paul is walking around and there's this girl who her masters used to tell fortunes, and she's walking behind them and she's saying, these men are the servants of God. They're telling you how to be saved. But this is verse 18. She kept this up day after day until Paul, greatly disturbed, turned and said to the spirit, in the name of Yeshua the Messiah, I order you to come out of her. And the spirit did come out at that very moment. Okay, so this was actually something that was in a person. You can tell sometimes if you see things in a person, but they saw this in the person, and it was very distressing because you would think, here she is saying something nice. She's speaking the truth. But when a demon speaks the truth to you, there's always a bit of a twist. There's always a bit of a negative thing. Um, I'll have to look up this reference later, but there's a scripture where it talks about um, the Psalms 91 that the Lord will send his angels to pick you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Well, that verse is also in the New Testament when Satan or Hasatan is actually trying to trick Jesus to jump off of the temple and says, that God will send his angels concerning you. And Jesus says, no way. You know what I mean? He's at this point, I think he cast out the devil. I'll have to go back and double check the stages of events there, but in which order they're in. But it's incredible because Satan used the words of the Bible, but Jesus knew it was a trap. See, there was a twist there because Satan wanted Jesus to submit and follow him. And Jesus was like, no way. So even back in Psalms 91, when this is an amazing promise for the believers in Messiah, it is absolutely was being used in a deceptive format. by Satan. And Jesus knew that. And that's why he told the devil, be far from me. Right. And so this is exactly what's happening here with the Apostle Paul, is they are trying to preach the gospel, but this lady is disruptive, very disruptive in the proclamations that she's saying. She's also being disruptive in the sense that she's saying these things to different mixed crowds, and it can have very different effects. It could cause some people to be angry. It could cause some people to question if these guys are legitimate, if this crazy lady's following them. There's lots of different issues there. But once again, you need spiritual discernment to do these things. And so one of the things you need to do with spiritual discernment is always measure it back to the fruits of the Spirit. Does it have peace? Does it present peace in you? Does it present fear? If it presents fear, then you need to know that this is most likely something that the enemy is sending to you. However, if it's a wisdom fear, like, okay, I really feel like I need to not jump off of this rock into this water, and later you find out that there's slates of wood, of rock there that you did not see under the water and you could have died. Sometimes the Lord gives us a warning that causes us to have, like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to pay attention here. This probably isn't a good idea. And that sometimes can have a little bit of fear component to it. But that's very different than I'm afraid, I'm shaking in my boots, I don't know how to manage. This is spiritual discernment. When you say, is this a voice from the Lord? It gives me strength, it gives me wisdom, it gives me peace. It's got kindness in it. It's got hope in it. It has encouragement in it, compared to the enemy, where there's a lot of anxiety. If I don't get it right, I'm going to fail. If I don't obey a certain way, it's not going to work. Those things are usually coming from the enemy. And this is just a simple um, thing on spiritual warfare. I'm actually going to, some of the resources I share with you at the end, I'm actually going to this fall start classes in those so that we can actually do the book together with people who'd like to read through the books, um, and do those things. So, but on to the second thing. Spiritual warfare is a very serious thing, and sometimes it's not about you at all. Sometimes it's because you saw something. So in Daniel chapter 10, we have this story, um, where Daniel had been praying and fasting, and all of a sudden an angel shows up in verse chapter 10, verse 9. It speaks of the angel coming. Daniel gets a little bit afraid, like, whoa, this is a powerful presence here. They have the whole conversation. Don't be afraid, Daniel. And here it starts on chapter 10, verse 12. Then the angel said to me, don't be afraid, Daniel, because since the first day that you determined to understand and believe in the Lord and humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of what you said. The prince of the kingdom of Persia prevented me from coming for 21 days. But Michael, the archangel, came to assist me so that I was no longer needed there with the king of Persia. Okay, so I'm reading out of the Complete Jewish Bible. If this sounds a little bit different than your average reading. Um, but what's interesting here is no matter what translation you read that in, you're going to get the same information. Like for 21 days, this angel that was coming to help give this message to Daniel was delayed because of a regional spirit that was over the entire area of Persia at the time. In case you don't know, that right now is Iran. And maybe that's very significant that we need to also be praying like Daniel did for that area of Iran. Um, Nonetheless, that's another video. The thing is that sometimes what we see is the Lord showing us something so that we can know how to pray for others. So, as this girl was telling me that she saw this demon in this bush every time she went around this particular corner when she was walking, I began to pray and say, Lord, what is that? Like, why does she keep seeing it in that specific area? So there's scriptures out there that talk about land being cursed, and that it has to be cleansed. We can talk about those things a little bit later. But I really, as I pressed in and asked the Lord, like, what is this? Well, it's interesting because in that particular space, there are neighbors who don't know the Lord. They're not bad neighbors, but I think they're wounded. And I really felt like the Lord said that this is the scripture reference that He gave me, is that this is where the devil goes around prowling, prowling like a roaring iron lion. You guys know I've had a stroke, so sometimes my words get a little confused here, but like a roaring lion to see who he can devour. And I believe that what is happening here, what the Lord showed me, is that that's exactly what it was. This was revealed to my friend because she is an intercessor. And so now I will join her also in praying that the Lord will protect the people in that part of that town so that they can be 100% protected from the enemy trying to sneak back into their lives and bring harm to them. Anyways, I told you at the end of this video, I was going to show you some resources, and I am. Some of these things I learned from these resources. If you want to get deeper than I can go in this video right now about spiritual warfare, um, these are the resources I suggest that you go into. Okay. Shifting Atmosphere by Duana De Silva. Her book is, let me see, it's kind of hard to get it on here. There we go. Shifting atmospheres, spiritual forces around you, discerning and displacing. So you know exactly how to deal with them. However, this book is not for the lighthearted. This is for somebody who really is seeing these things, dealing with this stuff, um, and wants to know how to get authority over those things. Today, I haven't told you exactly all the authorities you can get over this, but I have told you that sometimes it is personal and it needs to be cast out. But other times it's not about you. Other times it's about someone else. Another resource I have is also from the same author, Duana De Silva, Warring with Wisdom. In this one, if you've never approached spiritual warfare before, if you've never understood spiritual discernment, but you felt these things in the spirit, you didn't know exactly what to do, where to go, how to deal with it, start with this book, Warring with Wisdom, because the Warring with Wisdom book is very much a beginner's how to get started and helping you understand what you're looking at and why it's there and how to deal with it. Because spiritual warfare is not scary. It's not. If you look at Psalms 91, he says he will send his angels concerning you to lift you up so that you will not hit your foot against a stone, that you won't fear the terror of night or the pestilence that is there in the day. I remember Psalms 91 has some really key components in it when I was at home, like most of the world at the time, dealing with COVID and the terror and the fear that was around everyone, about if I go out, will I die? Will I get COVID and die? And for those of you who are like, it wasn't real or whatever, doesn't matter. I know multiple people who died from COVID. And so it was a significant concern for everyone at that time. Anyways, these are incredible resources. Shifting Atmosphere, Warring with Wisdom. Um, if you want to see some spiritual warfare and how I walked out of it, some of the things that I learned personally, there's the book here, Wounded Heart, Graceful Warrior. That's my journey from abuse to victory. And a lot of that victory came specifically from learning spiritual warfare, learning my identity in the Lord and how to use the authority as a baby Christian to start changing my life. Anyways, blessings upon blessings, everyone. This is Pastor Kelly Ann, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.